Hello everyone, this is Mr. James. This is the Unit 1 Foundations of World History screencast. In this screencast, what I'm going to aim to do is just go through a lot of the main focus questions for Unit 1. Unit 1 really revolves around one major question that we're going to break down into some smaller questions to think about. But the one main question that we are going to look at is, how does thinking like a historian help us understand our world? So these are our focus questions, our main questions for Unit 1. And they're in a bulleted list here. The first one, how do we learn about the past? Okay, how do we learn about the past? This is really asking the who, what, when, where, why, and of course, how of history. History isn't just looking at the facts and dates. That's what we do sometimes, but one of the main ideas behind history is that someone has to go out and discover it. Second focus question, does thinking about the world with historical habits of mind help to make a better world? When we think about this one, think about all the good that comes out of being a part of a history class. The main goal of learning about history is to create a society with better citizens. All right, in history class, you're learning about the mistakes of the past so that you maybe not necessarily won't repeat them, but so that you have an idea of how to go out into the world and act like a good citizen. That's very important, and it's going to be a part of what we study throughout the entire year. The third question here, how do historians organize time? We're going to talk a lot about what are called temporal frames. Temporal frames are just a very fancy way of saying how historians organize time. So of course here we have a calendar. That's one very simple way to organize time. We have the date. Today, as I'm recording this, it's July 18th. Humans made up time, essentially. And we are in charge of organizing it how we see fit. It helps us to organize time because it helps us keep track of things. We have eras here. Historians organize history into eras, into ages, into things like that. You see prehistory, ancient times, the Middle Ages, and the modern era. And even those major eras of world history are broken down into even smaller categories of time. So all temporal frames is how we think about time. What steps and tools do historians use to do their job? Okay, this is a big one. First and foremost, we need to familiarize ourselves with the term artifact. Artifacts are what tell us pretty much everything we know about the past. For especially what we're going to be studying, ancient history, there's no video recordings, there's no TV, there's no newspapers, there's nothing like that to tell us what happened back then. So we have to rely on artifacts, things that we have dug up or things that we have discovered that are there, but they don't really tell us anything. We have to be inquisitive and curious and try and discover things about the things that we find, which is what these guys are doing down here in this picture. They're taking part in an archaeological dig. So there's artifacts are broken down into two things. There's primary sources, which is any artifact that is directly connected to the historical event. And then there's a secondary source, which would be like a book written about it, using those artifacts to answer questions. Okay, how do historians collect and analyze evidence? And how do historians use evidence to construct theories, perspectives, and hypotheses or claims? I'm going to talk about those two together. How do historians collect and analyze evidence? Well, we talked about that with the last question here. They collect artifacts, and then they use the artifacts to help put the puzzle together, which is what you see all these strangely colored, faceless humans doing right here. They're putting together the story of history using the knowledge that they have. And how do they show us what they have discovered? Well, they write it down. They make documentaries, movies, videos about it, and they share their findings with the world. the main thing about history is that, and this might challenge what you think about it a little bit, is that it's always changing. Any day, a historian can go out, you could go out and discover something brand new about the world that changes how we look at history. All it takes is people following the 5 W's and how here to learn about the past. As long as people continue to do that, we will continue to learn new things about the past. So please think about these focus questions for Unit 1. Revisit this video when you can or when you want to kind of bring you back to the main ideas of the unit and get ready to explore some of these ideas a little bit more. Thank you for listening.